Hello, hello, hello! Welcome to the CHRYSALIDS Podcast, where imagination meets transformation, and it's all about you. I'm your host, Vivin, Mathew, Easo, and today we're featuring someone I truly admire, a bold, brilliant voice in modern Indian theatre. He's one of the most exciting young theatre directors on the scene today. If the baton has been passed on to the next generation, it's safe in his hands. Founder of QTP and the driving force behind TESPO, a festival that's launched the careers of countless young theatre makers. He's helped shape the future of performance in India. Please welcome the ever-inventive Quasar Thakore Padamsee, or simply Q.
Thanks so much for having me, Viv. It's lovely to be here.
What was that defining moment in your life when you knew that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
So I don't think many people have epiphany moments, but in a weird way, I can actually pinpoint the moment when I decided that, hey, the theatre was important to me and I wanted to feel like this constantly. And this was in school. I was in my 10th standard, I think about 15, and we were doing the annual play. And up until then, all the plays had been, Panchatantra or Ivan the Good or, like folk tales or whatever. And this was the first real proper play, and it was a student-built production directed by a lady called Vrinda Kondelak, who's one of the performers as well. And the play was Tennessee Williams' The Glass Menagerie. And it's a beautiful text. And at the end of the play, my character, which I was playing Tom, has a little bit of a monologue at the end. And on opening night, I was performing the monologue and I looked into the audience and I paused. And I felt the audience pause with me. And that was magical. Now as a director, I think of that moment, I'm like, this was the worst thing possible. Actor broke like logic, all of this. What is going on? But it was such an amazing moment. It felt like if I'd said, chalo, everyone, let's eat pizza, they would have all got up and we would have eaten. That level of power over an audience was amazing. Yes. And I knew at that moment
Control over there.
that I wanted theatre to be part of my life in some way, no matter what else I did.
Right.
And then literally I set about my life to trying to figure out, okay, what are the things I can do that will allow theatre to be part of my life.
How do you think that the young ones watching us and listening to us, will benefit from theatre in terms of their lives and careers?
So there's a lovely definition of theatre, which theatre is a microcosm of life, right? And it works in two ways. Not only because that's what we're showing to an audience, we're showing life under certain circumstances in detail to an audience.
Yeah.
And that's the search, but also in terms of the skills used. The theatre is an incredible grounding for skills, whether it's the voice, the body, the thought, the ability to think laterally and creatively, the fact that there is a deadline to the end of a production when you work on something, the sense of teamwork and communication with everyone coming together to build something, vision, working with newer materials. And mostly what I love about it are three things. One is the imagination.
Yes.
The concept of nuance. Everything is gray. It's not just black and white, right? And when you start studying human beings, you understand that everyone has some motivations and different motivations. And the third thing is the ability to empathize. Right? Theatre teaches you to empathize. When you play a character, when you are playing something, you automatically put yourself in that person's shoes. And especially today, where we're living more and more siloed kind of existences, we're not really understanding. So when I was in advertising, I was using skills from the theatre to imagine myself as the consumer of the ad I was writing. And that's still theatre skills, but I'm using it in an advertising world.
Sound as if, theatre is also a drug, a habit.
Oh, very much so. For those of us who have been bitten by the bug, as they call it, no, theatre is very much a drug. I would not be able to exist without it. I know that for example, in lockdown, when we were all stuck, and theater was the one thing that you couldn't do. You could watch films, you could make films, you could do all of that, but the theater is not there. And the thing that I missed most, I realized, was actually not performing shows. It was the act of rehearsal.
The journey
To be in a room with 10, 15, 5 other people all working towards something and exploring something and discovering in it.
Correct.
And I really, really missed that. And I missed also watching plays. And I missed not watching plays because there were live shows that were happening on Zoom and things like that. So you were getting to watch things, but I missed watching something with a fellow human being. And theater is one of the few things we have left that is a one-to-many experience. If you look at our phones,
It's a very human experience.
Yes, if you look at our phones or you look at our cinema also, like, I mean, I keep saying this, like, it's really hard to go to a date to the cinema because that seat is so wide and you have to try to reach over to hold their hand. But theater is not like that. Theater, you're all sitting together, you're fully aware of each other as an audience.
As a presence.
And that makes it really more visceral. It's a community experience.
Right.
And I really enjoy that about the theater. And I realize that that's really what I gets me high in that way.
Now you know why I personally admire and respect him the most among this whole lot of young directors that we have now. You want to talk a little bit about Bollywood, in the sense that because the young ones definitely would like to know a little bit whether it can be a launch pad or whatever you want to call it.
So here's the thing, right? When you start out as a writer, director, lighting engineer, whatever you want to do, stage manager, production manager, whatever you want to do within the theater space or even outside the theater, as a skill, as a job, if you want to be an actor, a writer, a director, production manager, stage manager, whatever it is, whether it's in the theater or whether it's in the allied art, what you're talking about, cinema, television, film, whatever it is, you have all those skills have started from the theater. The theater is the oldest form of storytelling, right? The moment some guy killed a woolly mammoth and came back and told other people about it, the first play was created, right? He was telling a story about, hey, this happened and he enacted it and, whatever happened. So in that nutshell and in that way, the skills that you gain in the theater, right, you will find incredibly useful in other places.
Agreed.
There's a friend of mine who works,
And even in the corporate world for that.
in the corporate world, absolutely. But since you asked about Bollywood specifically,
Bollywood, huh?
so there's a friend of mine who's an actor, and he kind of works in the way that he will always keep one foot in the theater.
Yeah.
Because he's like, in the theater, I get some time to work on a character, right? You start rehearsal, you're opening a play 6 weeks or 8 weeks later. You have that whole period of working towards making something. On a film set, he gets handed a scene as he's walking onto set. So he's like, where is the resources that I can draw on to play that character? And that's what the theater allows. It allows me to easily access that.
That's because you're constantly performing live. There's no, double take or third take. Right?
No, yeah. So in a weird way, theater actors, by working in the theater, you're better prepared. You turn up with a little more sense of homework. And these are all useful skills. And again, what I'm giving is an example of acting, but this works whether you're a production manager, whether you're a stage manager, anything at all that you do, whether you're a writer, whether you're a director. Obviously, the mediums are different. The camera is a very different medium from the stage.
Correct.
But everything has lights. Everything has to have some understanding in how you then unravel a narrative.
Right.
And the theater allows you to do that and allows you to learn that in an intense way, in a short span of time of 6 or 8 weeks, but in an intense kind of way. And those skills then really help.
Correct.
So if you look today across the spectrum and you put on an OTT show or whatever, invariably you will find a lot of people who have actually learned their chops in the theater, and most of them go back. So if you look at something like a Mismatch, which I'm sure a lot of people have watched, a lot of that cast, a lot of that crew are all from the theater. You look at Nasir Bhai, who's the shining example of a theater actor who's doing incredible work in cinema. Om Puri, and yes, you've had that era of NSD actors, but you also look at the newer generation. So a Huma Qureshi or a Nimrat Kaur or Ali Fazal or a Richa Chadda or a Mithila Palkar or a Shweta Tripathi, all these guys are all theatre. Mirzapur would not exist without the theatre fraternity.
Some of the great films have come from people who are learn their craft from theatre. And they've just kind of expanded their scope or horizon. And
Yeah, I mean, Anurag Kashyap started as in the theatre, man. He was a struggler with everyone at the Prithvi Cafe with, and then he's gone on.
Makaran Deshpande.
Yeah, and they've developed and worked hard, and obviously then found other ways to tell their stories. But they still go back and use people from the theatre fraternity to tell their stories, because they see that.
It's very interesting. So you learn the craft, you learn the skills, you have the talent which is honed in theatre, and to perhaps put bread on the table or paper or whatever else that you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the mediums are different financially, from a financial perspective, because obviously a film gets seen by that many people
many
more.
more
The scale is that much grander. Having said that, that is changing in the theatre as well. So if you look at Raj, or you look at Aladdin, or you look at Mughal-e-Azam, these are big scale musical shows that are happening, where
Right.
actors, stage managers, writers, lighting engineers, they are actually making a living off that show, of having worked on that show. Yes, they're not buying houses, and they're not being able.
So is this like Broadway coming to
A little bit. So things are a little better, right? From the theatre perspective. But the skills that you learn are still marketable in any other form. I mean, for example, I'm a full-time theatre professional, but we as a theatre company make our living doing corporate events, right?
Yeah.
But it's the same skills. We're still building a stage, we're still designing a set, we're still working with employees or CEOs instead of actors, we're still writing a text, we're still directing how it goes, we're still designing lights. All these skills that we've learnt in the theatre with a certain artistic care, which then we can apply to our corporate events and to other things, and that just elevates.
So it's very interesting you say that. I spoke recently to one of the India heads of a multinational corporation, which is among the global top 3. And he was very clear. He said, this is very interesting, because it goes to prove that even if you are learning the creative arts and maybe focused on theatre, that is not the end of the road. That is, you can do not just advertising, marketing, communication, but you can also do manufacturing. You can also be relevant in manufacturing. Because he says, in a numbers and metrics driven business, this is the talent, the skill, whatever you've honed in your. So that's an affirmation, actually. We keep having this talk about.
I mean, there are two sides to this, right? One is the skills. So you're learning organization, you're learning empathy. Huge. I come back to that aspect of empathy. You can empathize with your consumer. You start putting yourself in their place and understanding what they need, right? All these things are incredibly, because I believe the theatre makes you a better human being. And if you're a better human being, you can be better at anything. Right? That's your base.
Correct.
Because you're understanding human behavior in a particular way. So whether it's manufacturing, whether it's the creative arts, whether it's anything else, right? You can actually gain from having spent some time in the theatre. I mean,
I hope the parents watching are listening and, seeing all this, because we're living in a very different age, and you need to be supportive of the young ones who want to pick up something from the creative arts. I hope you do that.
I mean, a life in the arts in a similar way. We don't have too much formal education. And I think one of the things that we also have to educate the parents, because what happens is that everyone understands, okay, you do school, then you do 3 years of college, and you do a master's, and you do something. A work in the arts doesn't necessarily have that trajectory. Right? So your 3 years of being an actor is actually your first 3 years of being an actor is actually your graduation. So it does take time. Right? Because you're learning the ropes, you're building a network. And too often parents turn around after the year and say, no, this is not working for you, drop out. And you're like, no, wait, hang on a minute. We're still building blocks. And I think that's something that is changing now. People are slowly getting an understanding of it.
So this is a point I would like to make to the young ones, the youth. if you believe that you want to pursue the creative arts, take a stand. It's all right. In today's day and age, you can make a life, career, and grow with it. Even though you're a relatively younger person, yeah? Have you ever stopped and thought about your legacy?
Good God. Um, so I ran into an actor recently who I'd worked with very, very long ago. And I think she was 15 or 16 at the time. So I bumped into her now, and now she's a mother of two, and all of that. And she ran up to me and she gave me a hug, and I hugged her back, right? And she went, "Yeah, this is what I remember." And I was like, "What happened?" She's like, "When I first came to work in the theater," she's like, "I was not a person who was comfortable being hugged or hugging." And she's like, "You converted me to being a person that embraces other people."
Wonderful.
And on a personal level, if that's my legacy, I'll take it.
Okay,
Wonderful.
So you're a serial hugger.
Yeah, and I feel like, yeah,
Okay.
if just people hug a little more, it'll be great. Like, I mean, during lockdown, I used to sleep with a pillow on my chest because other things are touching things.
I think, yeah, you got
Chest to chest is only a hug. Um, but more than that, I think that if we, from a professional point of view, and from working in the theater, when I started in 1999 doing this relatively seriously, and the audience levels were much smaller,
Yes, yes.
to where I will leave this thing, and if I've left it a little bit better than when I got it,
Yes.
that's enough. I don't it doesn't need to endure, it doesn't need to, there don't need to be statues, there doesn't need to be any of that. But as long as the form, I'm completely committed to the theater as a form. I hope more people take it up. I think it is a wonderful life. I think it is an excellent life. I think the world will be a bit better the more people do theater.
Very true.
And I hope that is what happens, and that's what we do with TESPO, which is a youth initiative to just try and excite people about the theater, and hopefully they will keep rolling with it.
Yes.
So that's in a larger. So in terms of legacy, I don't really think very much. We all deep down, I think, have that one thing. Oh, we wish we did this one show that everyone remembers forever.
Ever.
But realistically, I don't think that's the pursuit.
Not. Yeah. Very good. You want to tell us a little bit about your parents? I mean, it's an awkward question, or are you okay with it? You're comfortable with it?
So I was quite fortunate to have, fortunate and unfortunate, I would say. I had two parents who actually were in the arts. Although my father made his living in advertising, if you woke him up at 3 in the morning and said, "What are you?" he would have said, "Theater wala."
Theater wala.
Theater director. And that's how he defined himself. And then he used that in all the other work he did. And my mother was an actor for a while, but also PR professional and casting director, and also
columnist.
Yes, and a column. And she was writing 9 columns a week at one point. Yeah, she was ridiculous.
She reviewed one of the plays Aaron did. That's how I remember this. Yeah.
So she was. I mean, both were incredibly prolific. And interestingly, when I decided soon after I was working in advertising, and when I realized that, hey, advertising wasn't giving me time to do theater, and I wanted to do this full time. And I know that there were 3 of us who had this decision. My parents were most disappointed in my decision. And I really expected support, man. I'm like, you guys know what the arts are. And they said, exactly, we know what a struggle it is.
Yeah.
We know how difficult it is. And we know, we think you'll just, lie around and not do very much.
Right.
But amazingly, we took the plunge in 2001 now. And I lead an incredibly busy life working in the arts and doing stuff. And to be fair, they have then been very, very supportive. And obviously you learn little things like my father's attention to detail, his thing that a show should not just be a show, it has to have something larger. His search for a larger social comment in his work. So that is something that I've understood, even though our kinds of work are completely different. So I make much smaller, intimate work. His was large scale. Everything was very grand,
very theatrical.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was more in that lots of bodies on stage and big set and cannon firing and all of this. And I'm more about the individual personal moments. And my mother is a and still is hungry to watch and see stuff.
Wow.
And I love the fact that in somehow that has slipped into
She must
me.
be in her 80s now.
She's 82 now,
Wow.
but she still goes and watches everything that plays, every art exhibition, everything. It's really quite amazing, and the ability to go out, and amazingly, even though she doesn't speak Marathi or Gujarati, she is not language
Shy.
shy. So she's language agnostic in terms of what she
Right.
consumes. So she'll go anywhere and everywhere and watch
Everywhere
stuff.
watch good theatre.
And that generosity of spirit and that eagerness is something that I really hold
Dear.
very, very dear. And I'm glad I've got part of it. I don't have her energy levels. Even at 82, she outdoes me.
Yeah.
Right? Like she's at
Wonderful.
3 or 4 things in the evening. I'm just like, yeah, ma, well. But it is that these are the two things that I've really gained and treasured from them.
Wonderful. So one very important point that he made was about having friends who are also equally passionate about the arts, whatever creative arts.
Yeah, I got really lucky actually, because despite everything, I didn't know if I was as in love with the theater until I got to college. And then I think I got to college at a particular time. There were 10 or 12 of us that were all as mad, passionate about the theater as I was.
Wonderful.
And that was very exhilarating, right? Because you find that, hey, this is my tribe. These are all as crazy about. We all knew nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
You inspire and motivate each other.
Yeah, we were all trying to figure this out. So Toral, who is my still my creative producer and the person who I also my boss at QTP, but she started off as literally a very organized person in life, and she just transferred that to a prop table and organized a prop table.
Wow.
And that was enough for her to say, hey, there is actually a function out of this.
Wow.
And then became a stage manager, production manager, and now is a creative.
So was it as tough for her also, like you face resistance?
So amazingly, right? So Toral, another boy called Carl Alfonso, and myself, the three of us were the ones. The company had been going 2 years, but as a part-time kind of way. I was working in advertising. They were doing the undergrad and masters. And at some point, we just sat down at a meal one day and we went, what if we try and do this full time? At that, you were all 21, Carl was 20, Toral was 22. And at that time, we said, we don't want to be 30 and have regrets. Right?
Eureka moment. Right?
Yeah. And we said, okay, let's try this for 1 year. All right. And we all went off and spoke to our relatives. My parents, I told you, were a bit like, no, why are you doing this?
Quite surprising, as you rightly said.
Carl's mother asked him one straight question saying, do you believe in it? And he went, yes. And she said, okay. We expected the most pushback from Viren Bhai, who's Toral's father, because they are a family business.
Yes.
The idea was that Toral would join the family business. There's a certain way we expected it. To his credit, he asked her a very simple question. He said, how long do you want? And she said, 1 year. Give us 1 year and we'll do it. He said, do you believe in it? She went, yes. If you really believe in it, give it 3 years.
Wow.
Right? He was able to compartmentalize what she wanted versus what he wanted. Right? It was an amazing thing. So she came back to us and was going, guys, it's 3 years. Now at 20, when you're thinking 3 years, that's a lot.
That's a long time.
Right? But we were like, okay, it's 3 years. Let's try this. And we embarked. This was, I think, 1st of June 2001.
Yeah.
Which bizarrely is the date we're recording. And amazingly, that was it. We went full time.
Wow.
It's been 25 years where we don't owe anyone any money.
Wow.
We have been lucky. We have figured it out. We're now a theater organization of 12 full-time employees. And yeah, we've gone.
And you're most importantly satisfied and fulfilled. I mean,
very much
every day, I guess, when you kind of do whatever you do.
So when I was in advertising, it was getting to me because I was catching the same bus at the same time with the same bus conductor who was handing me the same amount of change because he knew I had a 10 rupee note. And I was sitting in the same seat. And there were the same people in the bus. And I was getting off at Parel. And all of us would then just move in our exact same directions. that routine started getting to me. And the one
Reminds
thing,
you of Charlie Chaplin.
yeah, it's a
It
little
does
bit of,
good times. It does
of
good
that.
times.
And the one thing that the theatre or life in the arts does is every week is fascinatingly
Fascinating.
different.
It's a
And it's
true
different. So you can be in rehearsal for a week,
Right.
and you can be doing something. You can be doing development, which means you're writing something for something else. And I find that
Awesome.
incredible. So it's okay. It may not be day to day different, but it's week or fortnight to fortnight different. And what you're working on is amazing, and I really enjoy that. And I get to go to work in sneakers and cargos, and I quite like that.
Like that.
That I have that choice. Yeah.
Is there anything that you want to say specifically for the young ones? You've said a lot actually. If they've been listening, they'll be taking away a lot, right? And probably if they're interested in the creative arts, you will be inspiring, motivating, and you'll be a reaffirmation for them. So, what specifically you want to say to the...
I think anyone who's ever read a book or watched a film or watched anyone who's ever read a book or watched a film or written a poem, try the arts. No one's saying it has to become your life, but try it. It will open up your world in a way that you may not expect. There are numerous people who work in corporate organizations. I mean, the best example is Ronnie Screwvala, who, is an entrepreneur extraordinaire. But before UTV, he was an actor in the theatre. And that's where he learned. And he started producing theatre. And then he started producing cinema. And then he started, and he went from strength to strength. So whether it's whether it's someone as business savvy as that.
Siddharth Roy Kapoor is another.
Yeah, Siddharth Roy Kapoor is another example of that. And no one's saying that you have to end up in the arts as your profession. But having the arts in your life in some way, I think is definitely something that everyone should try. Someone beautifully said that, some countries have military services. We should have art service, where everyone gets to spend a little bit of time in the arts compulsorily. I would say the theatre definitely, because you learn, like I said, teamwork and working together towards a particular end. And those skills then hold in whatever else you do.
Thank you so much, Q. That was absolutely wonderful. It is so heartening to see that you still have that excitement, to still have that, and you believe theatre is your life.
Yes.
That's it. You
Very
cannot imagine a life without theatre.
Yes.
Yeah.
Theatre and cricket. But yeah.
Cricket. Yeah, okay. Two of India's greatest passions, so to see. So if the youth, the young ones and the parents have been encouraged, inspired and motivated by what Q has shared, you can reach out to him directly. Q, you'd want to talk about what's your email ID?
So if you're a young person that wants to get involved in the theatre, then the best thing to do is write to us on an email ID, which is theatre@thespo.org. Thespo is THESPO.org. That's quite an easy one for everyone to. That's the gateway into what we do. And otherwise, check out thespo.org, which is the website, or also qtp.in, which is the parent company that runs Thespo. But yeah, man, read a play, come check out, hang out. It's fun.
We'll be back after a break with season 2 and even more voices to spark your imagination. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, and start your creative arts journey today.